Donraj Sur has this incredible belief that your potential is absolutely limitless. The only thing you need is the right map. And that's really the heart of his method, right? It's not about just studying something from a textbook, it's about living it. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to dive into one of the most game-changing periods in all of human history.
So, what does it take to reboot an entire civilization? I mean, really think about that. Just hitting a giant reset button on society. A moment where suddenly, poof, art, science, philosophy, everything is reborn all at once. Well, that's exactly what we're getting into today. We're talking about the Renaissance.
Okay, so before you can really appreciate a rebirth, you got to understand what came before, right? You need to see the before picture. So let's take a trip back in time, back to medieval Europe. Picture a world that was, well, for the most part, pretty static. It felt like it was just holding its breath, waiting for something big to happen.
And this shows you everything you need to know about the social structure back then. It was called feudalism. Think of it like a super rigid pyramid. You've got the king at the very top, and then everyone else, all the way down to the peasants, had their own fixed spot. Your whole life was basically decided by who owned the land. And moving up that ladder, yeah, there was almost no chance of that happening.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Your entire life's path was pretty much carved in stone the moment you were born. The church wasn't just about faith, it was the ultimate authority on, well, everything. It guided every part of life. And if you had a new, original idea, yeah, that was kind of frowned upon. It was a world built on believing what you were told, not on asking questions.
So you have this incredibly rigid, static world. How on earth does something like that start to crack? Well, it wasn't just one thing. It was more like a series of sparks. And we're going to look at the 5 key catalysts that basically lit the fuse for a revolution in how people thought.
Okay, so here they are. The fall of Constantinople, the decline of feudalism, the invention of the printing press, new trade routes, and this brand new spirit of inquiry. Now, none of these happened in a vacuum. They're all tangled up together. You've got a city falling, an old system crumbling, a game-changing invention. It's like the perfect storm, all coming together to completely transform the world. Okay, first up, 1453. The ancient city of Constantinople falls to the Turks. Now, this was a huge deal. Why? Because for like 1,000 years, Constantinople was basically a giant treasure chest, packed with all the knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome. When the city fell, that chest just burst open. You had all these Greek scholars running for their lives, and they didn't just bring their luggage. They brought priceless manuscripts, and more importantly, the very DNA of classical thinking, right into the heart of Europe.
And the ideas they brought with them, whoa, they kicked off this massive shift in thinking. On one hand, you had the old medieval mindset. Everything was about faith, the church's authority was final, and the real focus was on the afterlife. But then, you get this new Renaissance spirit. It's all about humanism, logic, questioning everything. It celebrated what humans could do right here, right now. People started thinking less about what happens after you die, and more about the incredible potential a person could achieve in this life.
Now, having all these cool new ideas is one thing, but how do you get them out there? You got to remember, back in the Middle Ages, books were like luxury items. They were absolute treasures, copied out by hand, one by one. This meant they were super rare, crazy expensive, and pretty much impossible for a normal person to get their hands on. Trying to spread an idea was just painfully slow.
Until this machine showed up and gave ideas wings. A single invention that changed absolutely everything. We're talking about Gutenberg's printing press. All of a sudden, you could make books. Lots of them. The Bible, those ancient Greek texts, brand new philosophies, they could be printed and sent all over Europe. Knowledge was finally free. It wasn't locked up in a monastery anymore.
It's like Donraj Sur always says, one right idea can change the world, but only if you can share it. And that's exactly what the printing press was. It was the ultimate sharing machine. It took all these revolutionary ideas of the Renaissance and put them directly into people's hands. It literally fueled this massive awakening all across Europe.
So let's recap. You've got freedom of thought, and you've got a way to share those thoughts far and wide. The stage was perfectly set for an absolute explosion of creativity and genius. This era gave us some people who would literally change the world forever. So let's meet a few of these titans.
But first, what does Renaissance actually mean? It's French for rebirth. And that's exactly what it was. A rebirth of art, of literature, of science. It was about reviving all that amazing wisdom from ancient Greece and Rome and building a bridge from that old medieval world to the one we live in today.
So what does it even mean to be a genius? The Renaissance totally redefined the answer to that question. And maybe nobody, I mean nobody, embodied that new definition better than one man, Leonardo da Vinci. The guy was an artist, an inventor, and a scientist, all rolled into one.
I mean, just look at his work. From the incredible emotion you see in The Last Supper to that eternal mystery in the Mona Lisa's smile. His art was just next level. But here's the thing, he didn't just paint. He studied anatomy to truly understand the human body. He studied optics to get perspective just right. For him, there was no line between art and science. There were just two sides of the exact same coin. Seriously, just look at this list. Painter, sculptor, musician, scientist, inventor, anatomist, the list goes on. He was the ultimate Renaissance man, a master of so many different things. His curiosity just had no limits, and that is the spirit of the Renaissance right there. Okay, so in the world of art and science, you had Da Vinci. But what about literature? Well, that's where William Shakespeare comes in. You could say that while Da Vinci was busy exploring the world around us, Shakespeare was mapping the world inside us, that huge, complicated landscape of human nature. And what was so revolutionary about Shakespeare? Well, for one thing, he wasn't writing in stuffy old Latin for a handful of scholars. No, he wrote in English for everyday people. His plays, you know them, Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, they were all about universal human stuff. Love, jealousy, ambition, betrayal. They're still so powerful today because he was basically just holding up a mirror and showing us, well, us.
And finally, let's talk science. This is where Nicholas Copernicus enters the story. This was a man who dared to look up at the stars and question an idea that had been accepted as fact for over 1,000 years. And it wasn't just any idea, it was something that the church's authority was built on.
What did he do? He proved that the Earth was not the center of the universe. His theory showed that the Earth and all the other planets actually revolved around the sun. Now, this wasn't just some neat science fact. This was a philosophical earthquake. It basically said, hey, maybe we humans aren't the physical center of the entire universe. It kicked off a complete revolution in science, one based not on ancient texts, but on actually observing and experimenting.
All right, so a bunch of stuff happened 500 years ago. Why should you care? Why does any of this matter today? Well, because every single one of us is living with the results. The Renaissance isn't just something in a history book. It's our inheritance.
Think about it. The scientific method we rely on today, born in the Renaissance. The very idea that you, as an individual, have potential and rights, that's a direct line from humanism. That little voice in your head that tells you to question things, to not just accept what you're told, that is the Renaissance spirit of inquiry. See? These aren't just old facts. They are the absolute foundations of the world we live in right now.
At its core, the Renaissance was about people who looked at the world and said, nope, we don't accept this. They challenged what everyone else thought was impossible, and by doing that, they literally created a new reality. So it all comes down to this question from Dhanraj Sir. What impossible are you going to challenge today?
And just remember, Dhanraj Sir is your partner in excellence. He's always here to help guide you on your journey.